What's up, my dudes? Recently, I decided that my DragonKnight PvP build was getting stale, and I wanted to try my hand at making a damage over time build. Ever since the Plague Break nerf, I've been trying to figure out things and putting the sets together, and I believe I created a build that's quite interesting and different from other damage over time builds you may have seen. And it's also freaking powerful, my dudes. As always, please leave a like and subscribe, and let's get it rolling. Firstly, the race you want to play as is Nord. This is going to provide us with extra health and frost resistance, extra stamina and ultimate gain from damage taken, as well as extra resistances. What's there to not like about being a Nord, honestly? For the attributes, you're going to be putting 32 points into health and 32 points into stamina. The food that you're going to be using is the Jewels of Misrule, for that extra resource recovery and increased maximum health. The best potions to use are going to be your Tri-Stat potions and your Essence of Immovability. All of you that have seen some of my previous videos know that I almost always resort to these two potions because, quite honestly, they're just really good. The Mundus Stone that we're going to be using is the Warrior for that increased weapon damage. Fully buffed, this build will sit at 30,600 resistances, 4,882 weapon damage, and 8,746 penetration, with health sitting pretty at just under 31,000. For the equipment, we've got a lot of craftable gear pieces, so make sure you've got a master crafter friend that can help you out there. For the head, we're going to be using Bloodspawn's Visage with multi-effect enchantment and the Impen trait. The shoulder is going to be Bloodspawn's Arm Cops with maximum stamina enchantment and the Impen trait. The arms you'll be using are the Karth's Braces with maximum stamina and sturdy trait. The legs you'll be using are the Karth's Greaves. These are going to be the heavy legs, not medium. The rest of the Karth equipment will be medium. And these legs will have the multi-effect enchantment and the well-fitted trait. The chest piece we're going to be running is Curus of Daedric Trickery with multi-effect enchantment and the reinforced trait. Yes, I'm still a fan of Daedric Trickery, it's just a very well-rounded set. The belt is Karth's Belt with maximum stamina enchantment and sturdy as the trait. And the boots we're going to be using is Karth's Boots with maximum stamina enchantment and sturdy as the trait. For the jewelry, the necklace is going to be the Karth's Amulet with increased weapon damage enchantment and protective trait. Both rings are going to be the Ring of Daedric Trickery with weapon damage enchantment and swift as the trait. The front bar is going to be dual wield, both masters perfected maces with the sharpened trait. This is where things get interesting. Since we're running the Legacy of Karth set, we're going to be using damage, health, poison, IX on them instead of an enchantment. I'll talk about this more here in a bit after I cover the skills and champion points. On the back bar, we're going to be running the Ice Staff of Daedric Trickery with weapon damage enchantment and powered as the trait. Now, for the skills. On the front bar, the first skill I'm using is the Volatile Armor, which is morphed from Spiked Armor. This is going to give you increased resistances and also put a dot on nearby enemies, as well as harm enemy attackers that deal direct melee damage to you. The second skill I'm using is Venomous Claw, which is morphed from Searing Strike. This is another dot ability, and it has a guarantee to inflict the poison status effect, which if you don't know, the poison status effect just provides a bit of damage over time for 6 seconds. So it's another dot in itself. The third skill I'm using is Noxious Breath, yet another dot ability. But this one will also reduce your opponent's resistances by 6,000. Since it does that, you want to make sure to use this ability early on in the fight to get the resistances down. The fourth ability I'm using is Blood Craze, which is morphed from the Twin Slashes ability in the dual wield skill line. This is going to cause a bleed damage dot as well as heal you every time it ticks. This ability works in line with the Master's Perfected Maces and is super powerful because the initial damage of both slashes as well as the bleed are increased by 1,635 damage. The fifth skill I'm using is the Flames of Oblivion, which is morphed from Inferno. This skill will provide you with increased critical chance and a tick of flame damage on 3 nearby enemies every 5 seconds. This ability is quite useful when you have multiple targets, just helps put a little bit of damage on everyone that's fighting you. The ultimate ability on the first bar is Corrosive Armor, increasing your dot potential by dealing more damage every second to nearby enemies, and also basically negating your enemy's resistances to direct attacks. It's also good for making a clean getaway and recovering your resources when you're getting low. Now, for the back bar. The first ability I'm running is Race Against Time, which is morphed from Accelerate. If you really don't want to go through all the Sigic Order quests, you could just use Quick Cloak, which is a morph of Blade Cloak, as it will add another damage tick and also provide reduced damage from AoEs, and it's also going to provide you with a short movement speed boost similar to how Race Against Time does. The second ability is Coagulating Blood, which is morphed from Dragon Blood. This is your holy crap I'm about to die spammable, because it just recovers a ton of health and provides you with extra HP recovery. The third ability I'm using is Blockade of Frost. This is going to lay down an AoE on the floor, which will deal damage to your opponents, as well as slow any that are chilled, which can happen when you basic attack with your Ice Staff. It's going to provide you with Frost Safeguard, which is quite useful when facing off with a Warden. On a side note, you don't want to upgrade the Tri-Focus passive when using this build, so don't purchase it. The fourth ability I'm using is Igneous Weapons, which is a Molten Weapons morph. This ability is going to give you and your group mates 20% increased damage for 1.2 minutes. This ability is why I'm disappointed that no one groups in Cyrodiil. The improved damage output from this ability can easily sway the tide of battle, so group up my dudes. The fifth ability I'm using is Resolving Vigor, which just provides you with the heal over time and increased resistances. The ultimate ability on the back bar is going to be Shifting Standard. It provides a very powerful AoE dot, as well as applies Major Defile, reducing healing received and HP recovery by 16%. You can also repeatedly use this ability to move the AoE around during battle, free of cost, and keep it on top of your enemies. Now, let's talk about the champion points. In Warfare, we're going to put 50 points into Focused Mending. Then we're going to put 50 points into Ironclad, 50 points into Fighting Finesse, and 50 points into Thaumaturge. In Fitness, we're going to put 50 points into Fortified, 50 points into Survival Instincts, 50 points into Pain's Refuge, and 50 points into Celerity. And as always, the craft line is completely up to you, but I always say grab Steed's Blessing for that extra movement speed out of combat. Now, some things I want to cover with you all about this build. Firstly, the Legacy of Karth set. While your typical poison is dealing poison damage and potentially putting the poison status effect on your opponent, this set also makes the poisons deal disease damage, which has the potential to apply Minor Defile for 4 seconds. This is going to reduce healing received and health recovery by 8%, but if you have that combined with the Shifting Standard ultimate, which applies Major Defile at 16%, that's a 24% reduction in healing received and health recovery, which is absolutely huge. Now, with that said, let's stop here real quick and recap all of the damage over time potential we've got going for us. Volatile Armor, which is a damage over time and damage reflect, so we get 1 dot there. Venomous Claw is a damage over time and guaranteed poison status, which is 2 dots. Noxious Breath is a dot with the major breach, it's 1 dot. Blood Craze, the dot that applies bleed status, it's 1 dot, but it's also going to reduce their max health. Flames of Oblivion, that's a tick damage, I'm not counting that as a dot, but it is going to also be dealing damage there on the side. Blockade of Frost, that's an AoE dot on the ground. It's also going to apply a frost damage status. When it comes to the ultimate, you have a choice. The Corrosive Armor is going to apply 1 dot to nearby enemies. Shifting Standard is 1 dot of flame damage and a potential for 2 dots with the status effect. For your poisons, it's going to have 2 dots applied since we're using the damage poison IX. Since Venomous Claw is already going to be a guaranteed poison status effect, that dot is not included in this, since it's already counted. And then the Karth set is going to have that disease damage dot. That's going to put us at a maximum potential of 10 dots and a minimum of 9 dots if you run through a full bar cycle and everything goes off. This build can apply all of these status effects as well: fire, poison, frost, disease, bleed, physical, and magic. Trust me, if everything activates, your opponent is going to be screaming to keep their health up or get purified, which would be a real shame, but that's just how dot builds are. I'll put the bar rotation in the description of the video, so make sure to check that out. Now without further ado, my dudes, enjoy some gameplay.
I need a scarecrow after what you did, 'cause all of the birds know that I'm almost dead. I'm barely breathing, I'm barely awake. You left me in pieces, there's no more to break. Don't wake me up, not in this century. Don't wake me up, 'cause you're just a ghost inside my head. You're just a ghost, you're never there. You're just a memory on my lips, 'cause you're just a ghost inside my head. I need an angel after what you did, 'cause you were the devil, you messed with my head. You lied to my mother, you lied to my friends. You said that you'd be there, but this never ends. Don't wake me up, not in this century. Don't wake me up, 'cause you're just a ghost inside my head. You're just a ghost, you're never there. You're just a memory on my lips, 'cause you're just a ghost inside my head. You're just a ghost. You're just a ghost inside my head. You're just a ghost, you're never there. 'Cause you're just a ghost inside my head. You're just a ghost, you're never there. You're just a memory on my lips. You're just a ghost inside my head. Oh, you're just a ghost inside my head.
And that's all I have for this video. Please leave a like and subscribe. Get out there, put an absurd amount of dots on your enemies, and as always, I'll see you in the next one, my dudes.